Press record.
Okay. I think I pressed record. The clock is ticking. Yes. We are amateurs, and we are damn proud of it. This is the LuchaWorld Podcast. One-on-one, Vandal Drummond and Alfredo Esparza.
It's the first show.
The first official LuchaWorld show. Fredo, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
We are in the LuchaWorld headquarters.
We're splitting up the two podcasts. Since the other one, we never talked about Lucha Libre, so...
Yes, this is true. What we are doing is, when we first started doing Slam and Stan, we were intending to do a lot of focus on Lucha Libre, and it has evolved into a whole entity unto its own, which we enjoy immensely. We have a lot of fun doing Slam and Stan, but we really want to do an extra podcast that focuses on the world of Lucha Libre. And so this is the first official LuchaWorld podcast.
If we don't fuck it up somehow.
If we don't totally fuck it up, I gotta tell you. So
it might happen, you know? You never know.
Based on what we just said, if we put this on iTunes, we cannot say it's a clean podcast, because we just said we might fuck it up.
It's a mature audience podcast, so I picked that out.
Awesome. Very cool. So yes, we're still doing Slam and Stan, because it's like Slam and Stan is like having one big party, a big pop culture party that covers everything from wrestling to freaky movies to freaky music and
roller
derby, and we have so much fun doing it. But we really want to get our lucha in too. So
let's start with the big story this past couple. Well, for the last 2 months. For the big story the last 2 months, Sin Cara.
Sin Cara, who has probably garnered more news as regards to a luchador in America since Alberto Del Rio. And he actually gets a lot more ink in newsletters and such than Del Rio does, because he's, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, made a lot of waves.
And he's still a mid-carder to boot, too.
Yes.
Just imagine if he ever amounts to anything in WWE, what might happen?
It's so true.
Do you know what's going on with him lately? The latest?
Well, the latest I heard, I was reading the SmackDown report today, and I read that he had a match with Daniel Bryan.
Pretty good match.
And at the end of the match, he gives Daniel Bryan a soccer kick to the head. That's almost telling the story that we might see a heel, Sin Cara.
Yep, he's turning heel. Before you continue, it's the Sin Cara in SmackDown was Unico.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it wasn't the other Sin Cara. It's still not. Oh, you didn't know?
No, I didn't know that. I thought, okay.
Mystico still isn't Sin Cara.
Okay.
He was Sin Cara in certain house shows, supposedly. But I'm starting to think that might not be the case, because a lot of people can't seem to tell them apart.
Oh my god, it's so confusing.
So wait, Rob Bihari, he tweets something about Sin Cara, and then he mentioned it could be Primo. I was like, so then I got confused, and I thought he meant Primo was going to be a Sin Cara also. So then somehow I ended up confusing Rob Bihari, so now we don't know who the hell's going on.
This is so confusing because Sin Cara seems to change identities week after week, as does the status of Mystico / Sin Cara in WWE. Well, okay, here's the funny thing is, it's actually disappointing that it's not the original who does the heel turn, only because you remember how I felt during that brief heel run in CMLL. Mystico was a heel supreme. Amazing heel.
It was great.
Oh, man, and when they pulled the plug on it, I just wanted to pull my hair out.
But see, I'm thinking he's going to come back as the babyface in a Sin Cara versus Sin Cara feud, but...
Which would be cool.
You never know with WWE, because I guess this is going to be something that's going to be ongoing for the next... I don't think anybody knows. I don't think not even WWE people know what's going on.
Yeah, the inside story is more fascinating than the story they're presenting on TV. I saw... it's Unido, right? Unico. Man, why can't I get his name right? Just 3 syllables and I keep forgetting it.
He's only had like 4 or 5 different names.
Oh my god. Okay, Unico. I saw his match with Tyson Kidd, and anybody who knows me, I'm the man. I have the worst facial dyslexia or body dyslexia, where you could put somebody else under a mask, and it'll take me a while to realize, hey, that's not the same guy. Now,
you couldn't tell them apart?
No, with Unico, I could tell. It was so obvious. And the two things during that Tyson Kidd match I noticed were, obviously his flying moves are limited, not nearly as poetic as Mystico's. I mean, Mystico is so poetic as far as a flying wrestler. And the other thing I noticed is, while Unico's moves were not half as splendid as Mystico's,
flashy.
Yeah, half as flashy. When he sold to the audience, he seemed more comfortable selling to the audience the way an American audience would want.
You didn't watch the SmackDown match, right?
No, I did not.
Or the Raw match? I think you wrestled.
The Raw match. The Tyson Kidd one's the only one I've seen.
He had a dead crowd.
Really?
Yeah, the crowd's dead for. I mean,
which speaks.
They pop for the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, they just die during the match. And then, like, I think they'll pop for certain things. Because, I mean, it's WWE crowd. I mean, a guy can do a flip to the outside and people will be like, oh, that's the greatest thing ever. Because they don't do it. There's not a lot of guys who do that in WWE, as, you know, they have a lot of limited movesets in WWE.
It's true. And, it also speaks a lot for the original Sin Cara, because that guy gets pops.
Yeah. But you could tell right away that this guy doesn't have the star power.
No, not at all. Not at all.
He could get the trampoline thing right down pat. He has that down pat. But he's not... He's just missing a little bit. I don't...
Yeah, no, I don't see it. I don't see it going over. You know, I think...
I'm not sold on it.
I hear back and forth whether they're going to keep the original Sin Cara or whether they're going to let him go. The thing is...
They won't let him go really soon, though.
That's what I was thinking. Now, we've been hearing for over a month that, they're definitely going to let him go. But then we hear him staying.
See, but they can't let him go because they're going to go to Mexico.
Yes.
And if they let him go I'm sure if they decide to let him go, they'll let him go right at a certain point where they're not going to be in Mexico. But, I mean, right now, if they let him go... I'm guessing he's going to have, a 90-day thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't want to let him go at a certain point where... Because, I think if they would have let him go in August, it would have been close enough where it would have... there would have been something going on. He could have debuted in CMLL or AAA or whatever. Plus, I think he's staying.
Yeah, I think he's staying, too. Two reasons. One, there's that kiddie audience that they've garnered because of him, which they have not had in a long time.
They sell his mask for $75. I mean,
yes!
Come on.
And, I've heard that... I've heard different things. I've heard he's arrogant in the dressing room, but I've also heard...
He's arrogant in the dressing room. He's been that way since...
He's always been that way, yes. But I've also heard he's also just not too accustomed to...
The thing is, a lot of times, because I know, you've seen it with Mil Mascaras also.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the arrogance is due to the fact that there's a language barrier. And I think that kind of has a lot to do with it, where he's probably not going to go up front and say hi to everybody.
Yes.
Because he's a little bit more timid, because of the language thing. You're not just going to go, hey, what's up? Or
yeah, exactly. You're not going to be able to carry a conversation. You don't know these people.
There are dicks who will shake your hand.
Yes.
There are jerks who will shake your hand in wrestling.
And also, WWE and a lot of promotions have put up with people who've had much worse hissy fits than what we've been hearing about.
They put up with the Hardy Boys, I think.
Yes! Yes!
Did you read about that?
Yes. That... Just when you think you've heard it all, and you hear...
That alone, I think I would never book Matt Hardy for...
No way.
I wouldn't even give a crap about that guy anymore, just for playing that.
That's one of the lowest things.
That's the
not
worst
at all.
That's these guys, I think they kind of grew up idolizing Brian Pillman and all those guys who were into the shooty type of stuff. But I mean, Brian Pillman, I think, knew that there was a certain limit of what he could get away with.
Exactly. I mean, Brian Pillman was legitimately a loose cannon, but he knew he knew there were limits still. Yeah. I don't think he would Twitter, "I'm going to commit suicide." It's
although we don't know because he died too.
He died young.
He wasn't around. He wasn't around during the Twitter era, which seems to make wrestlers a little bit nutty.
Well, also I remember. Shortly after he passed away, Dave Meltzer wrote something in The Observer, and he was a really close friend of Brian Pillman, but he wrote something to the extent of how irritating it is that people idolized that he was legitimately a loose cannon, because that looks cool to the casual observer, but the guy left behind 2 kids, a wife,
Maybe somebody should have, talked to him a little sooner.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. But yeah, the Matt Hardy, contemplating suicide not on Twitter, it was YouTube, right?
Yeah, he put it on YouTube. It was like a little video on YouTube where he wrote that that this was gonna be the last time you'd hear from him or whatever. It was like this really long, drawn out thing. But it turned out to be fake. Right away,
that's amazing.
But you don't joke around about that stuff.
Exactly.
It's just so. I mean, you have these guys like Matt Hardy. Well, I'm pretty sure. I'll bet you anything, he'll get a job in TNA or WWE again. But then you'll get like this guy like Sin Cara, just because he doesn't shake everybody's hand. Mm-hmm. He's not gonna get. He runs the risk of losing his job. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah. I could just. Couldn't you just see the reasoning at like a board meeting, like, well, the guy's like an alcoholic. He's OD'd 3 times. He's got arrested. Yeah, exactly. But he shakes your hand.
Yeah. But this guy, he shows up on time. He doesn't shake everybody's hand because apparently there's some sort. He speaks a different language that we don't understand, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe we should fire him.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the steroid thing, I mean, come on, seriously. Like, how many of these guys don't use steroids?
Oh, look at these guys jacked to the gills.
My stance with steroids is this. Like, you can't judge these guys, because a lot of these guys can't really do anything else. Mm-hmm. So if this is your profession, and taking steroids is your way of moving up in your profession, I mean, it's up to that individual to decide if he really wants to gamble with his,
I agree.
If that's going to help him.
I agree. When I was like in my 20s, I naively thought, oh, they gotta stop steroid abuse, yada yada. But the simple fact is the genie is out of the bottle, and you can do all the testing you want, you're not gonna catch anybody. And, I think it's obvious to people that they're catching who they want to catch, and they're letting go who they want to let go.
I mean, let go. You just watch. You're going to watch on SmackDown in HD. Jesus Christ.
Anabolic HD.
What are they taking for the red in their bodies? The orange color. I know that's a tan. I know that.
Yeah. A natural tan.
Yes. I'm from California.
Well, no, and it's also funny when you hear... I remember once doing Kid Zombie show a few years ago, and they're talking Juventud Guerrera. Yeah. And at one point I say, why do indie people still book him when they know his rep? And whoever was his co-host said, but he's such a great worker, you have to use him. I'm going...
No, you don't.
No, you don't. I mean, you can have the greatest dancer and singer in the world, but are you going to have him play Sweeney Todd if he's going to... perform, songs from Godspell or something, I want to do it my way.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, I mean, at some point you kind of have to put your foot down and decide whether or not you really want to deal with that person.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the stuff, like the Sin Cara stuff, I mean, it's, like, it just seems like, I mean, if this guy, I don't want to make it sound like it's a race thing, but I mean, it kind of seems a little weird that this guy is getting thrown through the... It just seems weird to me that, I mean, how many of these guys failed drug tests? Randy Orton, how many times did Randy Orton fail drug tests?
Oh, easily. I'm sure, and I'm certain a lot of guys have failed drug tests that we don't know about, or they haven't been given drug tests or something, but I mean, yeah, I actually agree with you on that. I even remember, before his suspension, hearing a lot of the Smarks commenting about, like, well, he doesn't really understand how to work. He doesn't understand how to do this. People aren't popping for him, which was bullshit. People were popping for that guy.
Yeah.
Whether he's your kind of wrestling or not, if he's getting over and he's selling merchandise.
It's like when people rip on him when he wrestled in Mexico. I mean, the guy drew.
Yes.
Large attendances. And I go, you can't really argue against what he could do in the ring. I mean, you could say what you want about how he can't do the same stuff that Blue Panther or Negro Navarro or Black Cherry or all these really great workers. But I mean, how many people go watch them wrestle?
Exactly.
Compared to Mystico.
Exactly. If I had a guy who only knew 3 moves, but everybody wanted to see him.
Hulk Hogan only knew how to do the leg drop and the back rake. And he was like the largest, he drew a ton of people. I mean, John Cena doesn't really do a lot.
I have no qualms with John Cena being pushed to the top because he's getting over. He doesn't hurt people in the ring. I mean, I dig John Cena. Whether you agree with, what interview he was fed to do sucked or not, if he's getting over, he's over.
Yeah, his interviews suck, though.
Yeah.
CM Punk, the luckiest guy, within 1 week, within 2 days, he went from possibly facing Great Khali and Kevin Nash. I don't know if you do this. To not wrestling Great Khali and then possibly not facing Kevin Nash on the pay-per-view.
I was going to say, I heard about him facing Kevin Nash, but I didn't know about the Great Khali.
Yeah, he was supposedly booked to face Great Khali in the SmackDown Spectacular, whatever it was called. Super SmackDown,
yes.
whatever the fuck they called it.
Ultra Super Mega SmackDown. Yeah,
so all of a sudden they had who's that wrestled them? Khali versus somebody else. I can't remember who the other guy was. But Sheamus.
That must have been interesting.
Poor Sheamus,
I always thought Shawn Michaels was a great wrestler, but when I thought he is a great, great, great wrestler, he's the only person I've ever seen who made Great Khali look good.
How about Shawn Michaels? Speaking of guys who are total jerks, Shawn Michaels,
yes,
biggest jerk in the business, and people still gave him a pass every single time. I mean, the guy was practically an asshole the entire time. I mean, I'm pretty sure he didn't shake everybody's hand, all of it.
Yeah, and unprofessional, where he would walk out on shows if the crowd, was throwing stuff at him.
Did he lose his smile? He lost his smile so many times. Brock Lesnar, he's shooting prairie dogs.
Yeah.
I mean,
what?
Come on.
I didn't even wait.
Did you see that?
No.
There's a YouTube video where he's shooting prairie dogs.
Oh,
him and his brother are just shooting prairie dogs. I don't know if it's real or not.
Oh, my God.
I'm guessing, I mean, they can't fake killing prairie dogs. But it's like, these guys are all fucked up. I mean...
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
So hopefully Sin Cara does make it back.
I hope he thrives. My wish is for him to thrive. My wish is for CM Punk to get Wrestler of the Year in the Observer Awards.
No, man, come on. Averno's going to get that. We'll get to that later.
He's deserving of it.
Yeah, we'll get to
that.
Yeah,
we will get to that later. Averno rules.
We should take a break.
Let's take a break. Okay, we have returned. The next subject...
Just so people know, I'll throw in some, music in between. Or maybe not. It doesn't matter to me how this sounds. As long as it works.
As long as it works, exactly. As long as you can hear us. Well, the next subject is the arrival of Sting, who is going to AAA.
Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Well, they announced it on Twitter. Dorian Roldan announced it yesterday on Twitter that he's going to be in... AAA's next big show, which is Immortal Heroes, Héroes Inmortales, and he's the big surprise. He's one of the big surprises. Apparently, they're gonna have another one, but he's the big one that they announced. And this is actually gonna be Sting's first time in Mexico, which is actually gonna be it's a big deal.
I'm trying to remember. Sting's first time in Mexico.
This is going to be his first time.
I'm thinking of Ric Flair. He never ever wrestled in Mexico.
Has he? We were discussing this. I think on I think it was in Cubs fans page or on Twitter, and I think it was in the mid '80s.
Oh, he has.
Yeah, because I think there's a story about him leaving. He was gonna. No, he hasn't. I don't think he has, but he was gonna go, but they couldn't come up with the right amount.
Okay, yeah, because I remember hearing something about him being scheduled, but he never actually made an appearance.
It's probably one of those magazines that you brought along a long time ago.
Oh, many years ago.
I'm going to look through that stuff one of these days when I'm not doing DVDs and all this other stuff.
Well, because the UWA shows in the early to mid '80s, they had everybody who was anybody in America.
Yeah, because I think Flair was going to wrestle for UWA. Was he going to wrestle for UWA or CMLL?
That's how I recall. I recall it being UWA.
Because CMLL wasn't big on bringing those guys.
No. Well, I remember when I used to get Lucha Libre magazine every week in the early '80s. More fun than any story was just looking at the lineup of the weekly UWA show at, was it the Cuatro Camino?
Yeah, Torreo de Cuatro
Yes. it was like a who's who of, not a who's who of Lucha Libre, it was a who's who of wrestling.
Because you had all the Japanese, the Americans.
Yes, Americans. You'd have Stan Hansen, Pat Patterson on some of these shows.
That's in one of the covers of the magazines you brought along.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, I framed it.
Yes.
That's one of the framed...
I would have loved to seen Patterson work in Mexico.
I know, seriously, that's something we had to... I wish I could find on DVD or
That
something.
would be sweet.
That would be like the holy grail right there.
Japanese women, Devil Masami.
Yeah. Lola versus was it Ajak? Not Ajak. Monster Ripper.
Monster Ripper. I actually saw Monster Ripper wrestle Lola Gonzalez in Tijuana.
Oh, really?
In, I believe it was '89, and man, I was really sad when I heard of her passing.
Yeah.
Monster Ripper. She was. She wrestled under the name La Monster in Tijuana, and she was awesome. She was a great heel.
You know what I was gonna do, since we were talking about Japanese wrestlers? I just figured I would just throw in Tatsumi Fujinami. Like, if I didn't know the name, Tatsumi Fujinami. When we're talking about women, it wouldn't work with women. The old Gordon Soley trick.
The old Gordon Soley trick of, if you don't know a Japanese wrestler who's wearing black trunks names, he's Tatsumi Fujinami.
And it was Ring Fujinami. Wasn't it Ring Fujinami?
Was it Ring Fujinami?
Ring Fujinami. That was the name that they gave him in Japan and Mexico for some reason. I saw it because I was coming up with this idea for this other project I was thinking of doing. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking of names, and I thought, oh, Ring Fujinami, there's a name. I could figure out a way to mess around.
I want to be his turnbuckle. I mean, his boy. Am I messing it up? Great. I blew my great line. I want to be his tag team partner, Turnbuckle Drummond.
No, there you go. You know, the other one was Andre the Giant, who also wrestled in CMLL also for EMLL.
Did he really? I did not know that.
Guadalajara, that's in the new footage I found.
Wow.
Yeah, he worked. It was a handicap match where he's. I think I didn't watch it yet since I was just editing it out to sort it out. But it was him and somebody else versus like three heels or something. So it's like,
wow.
You know, it's one of those basic heavy handicap matches. He was another guy, and this was when he was athletic, not when he was like all broken down. Because the broken down stuff's already been available for like the longest time.
Wow, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, it's that right there. You want to see it now?
Yeah, okay, you guys are going to have to listen to us watch a wrestling match. We're not going to narrate it.
I should just play. We should just play the lucha matches while we're watching.
We'll do play-by-play. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. There's two mathematicos, too.
Is there really?
And they weren't even the first one. It was 2 and 4.
No way.
Was there a 3?
I don't know if there was a 3.
Yeah, well, there's 2 tagging that was a 2 and a 4.
When I was a little kid and first bought the Lucha Mags, that was the wrestler that intrigued me the most.
Yeah.
You know, El Matematico with all the numbers on his mask. That just blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was, you know, Lucha has always been such a beautifully surreal...
There's a lot of good stuff. So, I mean, I don't know, like Sting and AAA, getting back to Sting.
Yeah, I'd say getting back to what we were talking about.
We're starting to talk about UWA.
We're pulling a slam and stand on ourselves.
Well, there's really not a lot to talk about Sting in Mexico because he hasn't been there ever. So I mean, and then like, if this was like in 2000, if this was like in 2000, I think it would be like a bigger story. But like in 2011, he's been in TNA for like the last 10 years. It's like somebody's like working on a car.
Yeah, we hear a car self-destructing outside. You have to pardon us here. Yeah, it's interesting, the TNA involvement with AAA in the first place. I guess that's why when you talked about Sting going there, it made me like go in the Wayback Machine to Ric Flair's potential performance. You know, because...
Could you imagine Ric Flair versus Paraguayo back in that time period? Or Ric Flair versus Sangre Chicana?
Dream match.
Satanico.
Yes, that would be
the
sweet.
heavy Sin Caras or Rayo, which probably would have been...
Well,
Ric Flair.
From what I understand, Ric Flair needs money, so...
Nowadays, he's available. He could wrestle Mil Mascaras.
I'd pay to see it. I would pay to see that.
You know, the funny thing, because I think a lot of people were talking about like the, pay-per-views and all the stuff that's coming out with Lucha, and people are always trying to think work rate only. Mm-hmm. You realize Mil Mascaras versus Ric Flair would probably sell better than any of that other stuff.
Yes, it would.
It would.
I'd pay to see it.
I think a lot of people who are into solely work rate in lucha libre or in wrestling or in any style, they undervalue like nostalgia and all this other wacky shit.
They do.
And I mean, that would actually do really well. Because the things that do really well are like the nostalgia and title versus title things.
Yes.
That's the stuff that people really are marks for. So that's why I think Mil Mascaras versus Ric Flair in 2012 should happen.
That would be, that seriously would be great because Ric Flair, Mascaras would love wrestling somebody like Flair because, Flair will sell like crazy for anybody. And he does it so beautifully. And Mascaras loves somebody who sells for you like crazy.
You imagine who would be in charge of taking care of Ric Flair in Mexico? Poor guy would be like, the poor guy would actually have to be like, oh my God, Ric Flair's crazy as fuck.
Oh, Lord.
But, Sting, to me, like, this would have been a great story 10 years ago. Right now, I'm like, because every story I hear about Sting nowadays is that he's horrible in the ring.
That's what I hear too.
Which sucks, because, I mean, he's going to AAA, and it's like, there's a lot of guys who... I mean, if he's put in with the wrong guy, he's gonna have that's gonna be the shittiest match in the history.
It could be a disaster. Yeah, I have to profess my ignorance.
It could be Cibernetico versus Electroshock level bad, or like something like that. Electroshock versus anybody bad,
Well, while we're on AAA, a side note question I have is, I heard their lack of television here in the States has to do with a high definition issue. Yeah,
but I don't know what that... I mean, it depends on who you ask, because I think some people say it's that, and some people say it's because it's just to show that the television people here, they're just not as into as the lucha in CMLL.
Interesting.
I think CMLL fits more what people think of as lucha libre, whereas AAA is more of a... It looks more of an Americanized type of... It's more like a Puerto Rico type of wrestling promotion.
That's a good way of putting it. I mean, I will say I enjoy watching AAA, but I do fast forward through a good portion of it.
When it was on.
When it was on, yeah. I haven't seen it it's been a few months now.
Yeah, it's been I think it's been, 3 months now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not on fire like, I have to see it this week, because when each week I would watch AAA, it felt to me like I watched something so similar to what I watched the previous week.
Yeah.
And there's so much time spent on entrances.
Yeah, they're cutting that. I've noticed they're cutting that off on like certain shows. Because I think even the television show, because they're doing like a 1 hour show, and Lord knows they can't cut out the commercials.
Yeah.
So it's like they have all this like they've been cutting into the as the match is getting ready to get going.
Yeah.
Do the intros. I'm okay with sometimes, because I mean, how many times can you hear Sean Paul's song for Black Warrior, or that Queen's Reich, or Iron Maiden? That's not even Iron Maiden. What is that Scorpion song? How many times can you listen to that thing all the time?
I mean, the one entrance I love seeing each and every time in CMLL is La Peste.
Yeah, because they have Zach. They have Zacarias.
Yes.
Did you? You don't get Teleformula, right?
No, I do not.
They had this one. Felino's coming with Zacarias and this little kid. The little kid dressed as Mr. Niebla.
Yes.
Like the Mr. Niebla gimmick. So the little kid goes all the way into the ring, and Zacarias starts dancing with one of the girls. And Felino goes over and grabs him and brings him back, and he's pulling him towards the ring. And as he lets go, Zach goes back and starts dancing with the same girl. He goes and grabs him again, pulls him back. Zach starts going to the ring. He goes back. He looks over at the girl that he was dancing with the first time. He switches over to the other girl. So he starts dancing with that girl. And then Felino's like, well, might as well start dancing too. So they start dancing. So it's basically like 5 minutes of them just dancing.
And they're the only ones who could pull that off.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, that's the charm, part of the charm. And I think that's what a lot of people like. That's what people think of Lucha Libre. They think of that sort of stuff, like the mask and all that stuff. And I mean,
it's true.
There's certain stuff that AAA does, which I understand. I mean, some people that are getting into lucha like that. They want serious stuff. They want more of a storyline.
Yes.
Like an American thing. But then like CMLL is more of a,
That's true.
They don't have storylines. They're pretty much, that's pretty much
and
a dead thing.
Speaking of which, I guess this would be a good...
We didn't even talk about Sting that much.
Well... Here's my thing. I'm trying to figure out, what do we talk about? How do we talk about Sting in this segment?
He's a Hall of Famer, so we'll probably talk about him later. But
yes.
See, I I'm a big Sting fan because I actually did grow up watching Sting. I think I probably started watching Sting from the moment he started wrestling.
And I will say I am a Sting fan of old too. I remember his initial mega push with Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And
Did you watch him before the Ric Flair stuff?
Yes, I did.
The UWF and all that?
And
Yeah.
I remember when he turned babyface in UWF, and he looked a little uncomfortable on the mic at first, but I thought this guy's got appeal. I dug it. And he
was working with Eddie Gilbert, so that kind of helped too. So.
Yes.
Eddie Gilbert will help anybody.
Eddie Gilbert was magic.
Yeah. You know, the thing I was thinking about with Sting is like, he drew so much money not even wrestling. He could probably just show up in Immortal Heroes and just draw a big crowd not even wrestling. Just stand in the ramp.
Rafters dressed up as the Crow. Yeah. I remember in WCW when he had that gig, not wrestling, but just being in the rafters.
Yeah, that was like the easiest payday ever.
Oh my God, I envied him.
Yeah.
I said I want to.
I hated it because as a wrestling fan, you're like, why doesn't he wrestle?
Yes.
Why doesn't he wrestle this week? What's he gonna do up there?
Yeah, but that's the kind of job I want. I want a job where I just sit up in the rafters and look down. I don't even want the camera on me though. I just want to sit and watch and get paid.
And then you find out how much money he was making just standing there. I was like, holy shit, that's Hall of Fame worthy right there on its own.
I do agree.
Yeah. I'm curious who the other person's going to be if they bring in another person for AAA. See, I thought they were going to bring in the Hardy Boys at first.
Oh dear.
I thought, man, Hardy Boys in Mexico would have been like I think they would have probably not made it back.
No, oh yeah.
That would have been a tragedy.
Yeah, that would not have been pretty.
Yeah.
No, I don't know who. I have to say, I'm so ignorant.
Their dream guy is Kurt Angle. That's the guy that they want, Kurt Angle, but they can't afford him, I think.
That's a shame because that would be gold.
See, and I think Kurt Angle versus LA Park would do really well. Would probably be one of the best matches in AAA.
Yes.
I think Kurt Angle versus Chessman would be really good. Probably Dr. Wagner also.
Kurt Angle versus Dr. Wagner. That would rule.
They'd never put Chessman versus him because that basically, Chessman pretty much is like...
Kurt Angle and Dr. Wagner, I mean, two of the most charismatic people you could envision. I mean, they would make magic in that
room. See, LA Park, I would put Sting versus LA Park, just because LA Park can actually carry Sting to a good match.
That would be...
Because he's just going to take it to the outside, have him do crazy shit, and people are going to love it. I mean, he made a great match out of it.
That's true.
The beatdown with La Parka, so that's... But I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do with him.
I'll be curious.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that would be a good... this is a good place to take a break and head on into the next subject, which we started to touch upon, CMLL.
Yeah.
We will be back momentarily. And we have returned, and now we...
This is kind of like a Carl Stern type of show where we keep pausing it for no apparent reason.
That's right. We're taking breaks for the hell of it.
Yeah.
You know why we're taking breaks? Because we can, so we can feel like we're actually an official radio show.
Actually, we're taking breaks to watch all the lucha I've collected, and we're not sharing it with anybody.
You can't have any folks out there. Well, now we go from awkwardly talking about Sting in AAA.
Oh, and we should mention that if you guys are if you guys missed it, we had a 20-minute commercial break with the shake weights.
That's right.
We had a shake weight 20-minute commercial break in between every single segment. So
yeah, but if you would like to see it, just send us your gift of $10,000 or less to Alfredo Esparza.
This is the CMLL segment, so we're adding shake weight commercials.
That's right. I've never seen that shake weight commercial so many times.
Did you see the last one? They did one in the last couple of ones. They dumped the shake weight a few times, and they added an erection commercial.
What?
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Erection for some medicine that gives you an erection, like it increases your erection.
Wait, the shake weight, watching women do shake weights is what gave me an erection. I don't need a pill.
Well, they started, I think it was 2 weeks ago they aired it, and I was like, what is going on? Now they have an erection type of commercial.
Aren't they saying wrestling fans are impotent?
And then you notice, like, one of the commercials really isn't like a commercial, it's just them talking about Galavision.
I did see that. Okay,
it's got elephants elephants like running and zebras running, and then like leopards. I'm like, man, Jose Fernandez must have been posting this thing. He's posting pictures a lot of like leopards and stuff on Facebook. So
how funny!
Yeah.
Oh Lord, yeah. Because CMLL, I've been really enjoying the wrestling on the shows. If they could just have as much wrestling as they did commercials.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 weeks ago. There were so many commercials. I mean, I had that fast forward on my DVR pressed down for the longest time. I think my thumb was starting to get a cramp. Seriously, they were long commercials.
Oh no, there was that one show where they had the trios match. There was like a 20-minute commercial in between like that one segment where they have like Tanya talking. Interviewing a fan, and then they had like another 20 commercial break. I was like, man, it was like a 40-minute commercial break. I know Dave Meltzer watched that match and gave that show like a 4 1/4 stars.
That was a great trio match.
Yeah.
I had, usually I love it when a trio match goes standard, and when it's time to go home, you go home. But I loved how they kept having all these near falls, and just when you think the match was going to be over, and that was the last near fall you were going to see, it was just, they'd kick out and they'd keep going. Well, I guess that's the thing, is CMLL doesn't do tons of matches where there's countless near falls. I get really tired of them in indie promotions where everybody kicks out of every finishing move.
And then they do like a lot of big moves too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in CMLL,
you kind of know the formula. It's like,
yes.
There's going to be a tope.
Yes.
So there's going to be a tope. Then there's going to be at least one flip where somebody's going to try to do like a weird flip. There's always going to be a tope. And then there's the finish, either a foul, a mask ripping, or some sort of shenanigans by the Tirantes or something.
Yes, you can envision it. You can see, okay, it's about to end now.
Yeah.
So in the trios match where it just kept going and going and going, it made it exciting,
and
having it be the exception.
Averno's just been great.
Averno is awesome.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't go to WWE. Are we still on the whole WWE, him going to WWE
Him
thing?
going to WWE thing. The only reason I'd love him to go to WWE because I think he's somebody who deserves a great payday.
I think the only reason I want him to go is just so Steve Sims and the Cubs fan can continue being asked that same question every week. When is he going to WWE? I'm sure they're probably already tired of listening to that or reading that question.
Yeah. Now,
I think he's great. And then the thing, like, I know when I mentioned that I kind of like the roster now more than, or the shows more now than when Mystico was there, was because I kind of felt like they were always like holding on to Mystico the whole time. Like they were always just like, well, now what do we do with Mystico? Now what do we do with Mystico? And like nowadays, it's like you really don't know what they're going to do, who they're going to put up as a main eventer.
That's
kind of hurts. It kind of hurts them attendance wise, but as a fan, as somebody who doesn't really attend isn't going to attend Arena Mexico. It's the diversity is so much more entertaining for some reason.
I agree. I think CMLL is so much. It's more interesting to watch these days than it has in several years, easily.
Yeah, because right now they have you have Hector Garza. You have Hector Garza as a main eventer. You have the Fuerza TRT with Rey Bucanero and the two Tejano and Terrible. Then you have Atlantis versus Ultimo Guerrero and their whole situation. You have Hector Garza with what's wrong with him and Volador.
Yes.
Then you have Atlantis and Shocker are upset. Shocker's upset at Atlantis because the two guys that Atlantis is tagging with were Shocker's former pupils or whatever in that whole storyline. Then you have Felino and Rey Bucanero. Felino's upset at Rey Bucanero for stealing his son. Rey Bucanero tells Felino that Felino is not only is he a bad wrestler, he's a horrible father. So Rey Bucanero is a better example. And then my thing is, Rey Bucanero is not a very good father figure either. Look at what he did to Zacarias. I mean, he dumped him.
Yes.
And then you have Guerrero Maya moving up. You have Virus. Virus is also in the whole thing. La Máscara and Averno is never going to end. And then you have La Sombra and Máscara Dorada who come in and out whenever they're not in Japan. And then you have Tanahashi, all these other Japanese guys who are coming in. Liger's going to come in, and he's already said that he's going to be in there for a couple of...
so he will be
a
back.
long stretch of time, and he's already said he's going to be... I guess they've already said he's going to be a babyface this time.
Way cool.
Well, it's not cool because he's such a great heel, and he's a great dancer, too, so...
the Ross de Lona dance.
Yeah, the Ross de Lona dance. And then they have all these other guys underneath that are just really good. Like, you could watch, like, their undercard, their opening matches, like, in LATV. They'll have this really tall guy named Bronco. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy, like, I know he doesn't have a bodybuilder look, but, I mean, he reminds me so much of, like a Morishima in Japan, where he just has, like, this weird, awkward body.
It's refreshing.
He's a smooth worker. He's a really good worker, too. I mean, they could easily change... They have to change his name, though, because Bronco... I think that's like the 5th Bronco or something.
Yeah, you might as well call him Dragon.
Yeah,
you know,
Dragon.
it's like there's been 100 of them.
Hey, there's Tiger.
Oh dear,
Kid
yeah.
Tiger is now Tiger. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he's Tiger now.
He's not a kid anymore.
And the women are involved in feuds too. And the midgets are involved in feuds. The mascots are in feuds. They had the Kemonito versus Zacarias pull apart. Did you see that in Leyenda?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, they had the pull apart, and they had the minis feuding over like this whole thing about who's like the. They had that tournament a couple weeks ago. They
actually have stories with meat in them now, and something you touched upon.
Sadly, they don't use their TV show to, build the stories though, because they have so many TV shows.
I want more CMLL TV. I'm enjoying it.
They have to figure out a way where they could actually everybody can watch it.
Yes.
Because I mean, I think it's kind of difficult. Like if you're watching the Ultimo Guerrero versus Atlantis feud, you watch it one match in Galavision. Then you're like, where do I watch the next match? It's on Channel 52. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't have Channel 52. I have to look for it on YouTube or somebody, Hope, the Cubs fan, who, by the way, is the only person that seems to have access to that show.
Really?
For some reason, he's the only person who actually has that show.
Let's hit him up.
Yeah, so he puts it up online and everything, so he makes it available. And then you have to watch that. And then you're like, hey, where's La Sombra versus this guy? And then it's like, oh, it's this other show. So it's like 10 different shows, so it's really confusing to keep up with this stuff.
Something that you touched on that I have been really enjoying as of recent in CMLL is they are really pushing the undercard guys.
Yeah, and all these like Rey Escorpion is another guy.
I love Rey Escorpion. That guy
isn't
cooks.
That Ultimo Guerrero new trio? I don't think they've shown him. I think they might have shown him once. But it's Ultimo Guerrero, Dragon Rojo Jr., who was already on the team. Mm-hmm. And then they replace Atlantis with Rey Escorpion, who is like the most awesome. He's the most awesome worker you could actually.
He is really cool. Yeah. I like that guy. I like that guy a lot. Man, I love the way they've been pushing them as pupils of some of the veteran wrestlers.
Yeah. And then they end up teaming with them, and that's how they build up new main event guys.
Exactly. They're actually doing it the way it should be done. And is there like a different booking team in control now?
Well, Ultimo Guerrero is one of the bookers. Like, if you've noticed, but I think that's why he dropped the belt to Hector Garza. Mm-hmm. Because I think that kind of was his way of saying, hey, you know what? Because for some reason, title belt still means something, and plus he already has another belt.
Yeah.
He had to drop one belt, I think. He had to drop one belt because they're going to hold their. Well, I think they already started. They're holding They do the Universal Title Tournament, where the 16 guys who hold belts are in a tournament, and then the finalist gets another belt or something.
Yeah,
gets a trophy.
Well, titles mean something because they know how to push them. They know how to tell a story.
Well, that's the thing. They have so many, though. That's the problem. They have so many, but I guess now it makes sense because they have a tournament for everybody.
And I know there's not a focus on this in this day and age, but one of the things I loved about Mexico when I was a kid and was reading all the magazines was they had a title for every weight class.
Yeah, they still do.
And it meant something.
Yeah.
Now it's like a featherweight is just a mini.
Yeah, well, see, that's the only thing they changed. They changed the featherweight. Somebody asked me if I knew who the greatest featherweight was. I'm like, that's kind of stretching it. Who really knows? Because a featherweight can be a mini or it hasn't really been used lately.
Yeah, well, you know me, I'm an old man, so I kind of.
You do remember who the greatest featherweight is?
I can't remember. I can't remember if it's featherweight or if it was one of those. It was one of the lighter weights, but
it's flyweight. It was a fly. He asked me flyweight.
Flyweight, okay, because I remember in the magazines, I saw Rosado Ruiz everywhere, and he was one of the lightest wrestlers, and I remember being 15 years old and being a kid who was probably about 110 pounds soaking wet. I just thought it was so cool that here was this little dude who was seen as such an icon.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be featured in the magazine as much as Dr. Wagner or Angel Blanco, but
I think that's why a lot of guys what I got, why I got into lucha was like you saw so many guys who were so much smaller than the guys in the U.S. Whereas the smaller guys in the U.S. were either light heavyweights or junior heavyweights who never showed up on TV except for that one time they would make it, and usually if they were on, they were jobbing.
Yes.
And in Mexico, it's like you had Fuerza Guerrera versus Octagon as like the biggest, like a huge main event or something, or you had El Dandy versus Javier Cruz, or you had Hijo Santo versus Espanto Jr., which, by the way, I found another match of Espanto Jr. versus...
Oh, did you really?
There's now 3 matches.
One of the guys whose careers ended way too soon. Very sad. That guy was so talented.
Another great worker. But I mean, and that's what you notice, like with Mexico, you kind of, the heavyweights take a backseat to like the lighter weights.
Yes. Oh, the man who was considered the greatest heel of Mexican history was Cavernario Galindo, who was a little dude.
Yeah.
Feuded with Gory Guerrero, another little dude.
Yeah.
And they were considered 2 of the best.
Santo was a big
yes.
guy. Blue Demon wasn't a big guy either.
Exactly.
There was a lot of guys. You know, I mean, heavyweights wasn't a big thing in Mexico to like Sin Cara, Mil Mascaras, all those guys. Really.
That's true.
I don't know. But nowadays, I mean, right now, I think it's just great because we don't get the Dinamitas. Dinamitas versus Porky and Rayo, and remember that period in time where it was always that, and then like it was like, oh shit, not this again.
I know so exactly.
Like, I remember Bob Barnett. I know a lot of people like to ask us, because there's a lot of people who like to ask if there's full shows of stuff going back to the 90s and everything, and you notice like a lot of people didn't tape stuff complete.
Yes.
And I always remember like Bob Barnett would always say, they would ask Bob Barnett, how come you don't tape the complete shows? Like, it's like that's Jeff Lynch's job. I don't have to watch that bullshit. I thought that was...
You know what's funny though? I remember in the late 80s when I was, when CMLL started airing here in the LA area on Galavision. I loved the opening matches.
Yeah.
A lot of the lesser known guys like Matematicos or Estrellas Blanca, Panico.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't these.
The weird thing was then you found out that some of the guys ended up the younger guys ended up being bigger stars later. Like
yes.
L.A. Park. He used to show up as Principe on
Island. Yeah.
Heavy Metal, Canelo Casas.
I remember. In fact, I remember. When Negro Casas was still with UWA, he made a shot on the Galavision show with it was him, Canelo Casas, and I can't remember who the third guy was, but that was back when the rival promotions would still use each other's talent, before...
It's kind of interesting. I know people like right away shot it down, the Dorian Rodon thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it would have been interesting. Like, you don't have to like go all out, like have guys show up on one side or the other, but it would have made it something interesting. Like, if you're not using like 2 or 3 guys,
why not?
Why not let them just work at one of those shows? It would have been a great idea. Like,
well, and if I recall, Mexico from the time UWA was conceived, even when they were in a really bitter war with CMLL, there was some talent going over to the other side and not really conflicting for some time.
Santo's the only one that doesn't seem to get along with anybody.
Wow. Boy, talk about somebody you never thought would be the king of whatever happened to.
Yeah, he doesn't get along with anybody, like AAA or CMLL.
This is true.
I think that's why AAA and CMLL would unite, just to like spite El Hijo de Santo.
It would be the first ever, the anti-Santo campaign. We're going to have a big anti-Santo show at Arena Mexico.
Yeah, I love how Twitter, that's the only reason to follow these guys on Twitter. Because like most of the stuff they write is like just bullshit. Or just them retweeting stuff like, oh, Santo, you're the greatest. Or Blue Demon, you're the best. I love you. Oh, retweet, hit retweet. But like every once in a while, there's something that will just piss them off. It's like, oh my god, with Blue Demon, it's the NWA acronym. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my god, they don't own the rights. Mr. Bob Trowbridge owns the rights to them. It's like, God, dude, come on, seriously. If you guys aren't gonna sue them, go over there, do it, do what you're gonna do. You're not gonna get away.
Yeah.
They
stop tweeting and take action, for God's sake. Another thing I'm really enjoying on the Galavision shows of late is you actually get a singles match most weeks, which is something you haven't seen.
The lightning match.
Now, being somebody, I'm one of those guys who loves lucha, but is still very Spanish challenged. What's the whole concept behind the lightning round?
It's basically like the beat the champ type of thing. The beat the champ thing, where there's a 10-minute time limit, and you basically have to win within those 10 minutes.
That is awesome.
And basically, I think you might have seen the one where there was a draw.
Yes, I did.
I told you where the guy just decides to do the flip.
It was Valiente.
Oh, by the way, Ray Cometa, who was in that match, he kind of got he's starting to get in with the Ultimo Guerrero group or something.
Is he really?
They had him in one of the matches where he teamed with them. That should be interesting.
Now you're mentioning, in fact, you were mentioning Ultimo Guerrero dropping the title.
To Garza, did you watch that match? No.
No, I haven't yet. I do still have it on my DVR. It was right after the Peste Negra match, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. It's hard to watch the full match live. I think I recorded it at midnight. Because it was on at midnight, right?
It's on at midnight. Yes.
Yeah. The last 2 or 3 weeks has been on at midnight. No, the last week was on at 4. But I've been recording it at midnight, and I caught the Peste Negra match, and then I was like, I'll watch that later, the Hector Garza match. I think I saw it afterwards, but it was like...
Yeah, my DVR is set right to where they're holding the belt in the middle of the ring, getting ready to get it started. No, but
I'm not a big fan of them two going at each other for some reason. They don't have chemistry.
Really?
I personally don't think they have chemistry against each other.
It is cool if he's dropping the belt as kind of a sign that if he's Booker in control and not hogging the titles, I think...
Yeah.
I mean... not that I'd ever have that great position of being a booker anywhere, but I think the first thing I would do if I was a booker and a wrestler is I'd not push myself.
I would be champion. What are you talking about? I'd be champion.
I'd
be like on every single show. Like I'd be at the on the intro introducing the show. I'd be like, "Hey guys." Okay. Like I'd be right next to Miguel Linares because I'm too short to be next to Dr. Alfonso Morales and Leobardo Magadan. I'd have to be like next to Miguel Linares and that other guy, Leo Riano. Yeah. And maybe one of the ring girls.
And of course, you know what I would do if I was Booker.
And then I'd come in and dance with Zacarias.
Yes.
I'd probably come in and dance.
I'd give you the job just to see you dance.
Yeah, there you go. I'm a good dancer, though.
I'm not.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised I could dance.
I got to see you do the dance moves. Now, the reason I never dance is every time I dance, people call the paramedics. Say some poor guy's having
that's why.
Yeah, they say some poor guy's having a seizure here. Come and help him. He's going to collapse.
The Elaine dance from Seinfeld.
Yes, that's me. I do the Elaine dance from Seinfeld.
Yeah, but see, I could see your point where maybe it's his way of trying to show that he's not just going to think about himself.
Yeah, and just not push himself and his best buddies.
For a while, it kind of seemed like that because the Atlantis thing was involving him, and then the Garza thing was involving him too, and then like all of a sudden, but I think Garza started talking about Volador again.
Yeah.
So I guess they're going to start feuding.
Yes.
The other guy that I don't think you've seen, I don't know if you've seen him or not, or if he's been Psychosis.
No, I have not.
You haven't seen him? This is the second Psychosis, and I know a lot of people just like shit on him because he's not Nicho. But if you watch him wrestle on LATV, I don't know if you record LATV. You probably don't because you told me it was like...
This is the oddest thing ever. I cannot set a series recording on my DVR for LATV. Just on that channel. I do not know why.
Who knows how to do it. I'll ask Cubs if he knows how to do it.
But no, it's weird. Every other channel on my Time Warner, we can plug for a series recording. It won't let me do it on LATV, and I don't know why.
So, Psychosis, if you watch him wrestle, you just see how hard he wrestles. Like his effort. He's not as good as like some of the other guys, but just because he goes on effort, he actually matches those guys. And I actually dig him. Volador has replaced Hector Garza in that group. So they actually have like this really colorful look because Volador changes his outfit so many times.
Yes.
He's got a light blue look. And then you have Psychosis in like the purple reddish type of look. And you have Alebrije with the whole like
everywhere
every color of the rainbow. They have like this cool like heel look to them. So, but Psychosis is a guy you have to watch because he like just the effort. You're like, man, this guy's actually pretty good just because of the effort he gives.
And I'm into that. I would rather have like a mediocre wrestler who has passion and is working hard.
Because I mean, he's in there with Blue Panther. And he's really holding his own with Blue Panther, which Blue Panther does a lot of the stuff. But I mean, it really shows you that. I mean, because a lot of these guys can actually look like shit when they're in there with a good. See, there's been a lot of AAA guys who jump to CMLL. If they don't get going right away, the CMLL guys are just not gonna give a shit about it.
This is true.
And this guy actually, like, I guess he's done enough where they actually make more. Like, they give him more of a. He's doing well.
Well, that's cool. Well, I think I said on one of our previous Slam and Stand shows, one of the things I dig about Rush is I know he's not the greatest wrestler, but he looks like he has passion for what he's doing.
There's another guy, and he's going to be a really good heel at some point. Cause
I agree. I mean, just his mannerisms, his facials, and everything. Have
you heard him talk?
No, I have not.
When he talks and he's joking with the guys, they've had him on like the Rostalona shows where he's talking to the guys, and he's just talking to them off the whole thing, and he's actually like he comes across like he's got a sarcastic side to him.
Yes.
So like it comes off like a dick, but it's not a dick like a bad dick guy. He's just a jokish type of guy.
Right.
Wrestler. So it works because he has the face. The face makes him look like he's a dick.
He has a great face. Yeah, so he has like you said, he has a great face for a heel, especially.
Yeah. I think he'll end up being a heel at some point too.
That's very cool. I enjoy watching him.
Versus Garza at some point is going to be a main event type of thing.
And that's one I would look forward to.
I guess the anniversary show is probably going to be the Fuerza TRT putting up their hair against somebody. I'm guessing.
Really?
That's what it looks like. But I mean, you can't tell because they haven't really planned it. They have, like I'm telling you, they have so many things. Oh well, Fuerza TRT versus Shocker and Hector Garza. Those guys are.
That would be cool.
And then there's Felino also involved feuding with Rey Bucanero. They have a lot of like feuds. Like basically, you have Hector Garza, Shocker versus those two guys. Then you have Rey Bucanero, Felino. There's two feuds. Then you have Atlantis and Shocker for some reason not getting along. Mm-hmm. They teamed up recently, but there's still that little like distance. Ultimaguro and Atlantis. They're two groups. Then you have Volador and Hector Garza. You have Virus and I think he's feuding with, I can't remember who he's feuding with, but there's like a bunch of different guys just like having issues. La Mascara versus Averno.
Well, they have so much that they can choose from for the anniversary show that I'm going to absolutely scream. Oh my god, I'm going to scream if they have a cage match as the main event with 16 wrestlers in it.
Well, see, that's a good thing. Though, some of those guys that left, that's kind of good because they kind of lost mask. Because they usually have a mid-card mask match, and some of those guys left. But I think some of them left because they kind of had saw the writing on the wall that they weren't going to get moved up. They're actually good workers, the guys who left. Cemental, Dr. Extreme, and Mortis. Mortis is probably the
name Dr. Extreme. I'd give a guy a job for that.
Well, his name was Dr. X. He changed it to Dr. Extreme.
Dr. Extreme is great.
Yeah. You should probably change it, though.
Well,
that's enough CMLL for this.
I think it's a good time to take another break just because we can. And when we turn, we'll be remembering Mando Lopez. And we have returned.
You're trying to remember when he passed away?
Well, when I first started watching wrestling in 1972, Los Angeles wrestling had its whole array of stars. It had a good number of guys who were mid-carders, and then we had our Southern California jobbers. And when I say Southern California jobbers, that is no derogatory statement. We had, a number of guys who usually got their clocks cleaned on a weekly basis, like the Peace Brothers, Don Reeves, Wildman Jack Armstrong, Lou Anthony, who also would wrestle under a mask as the Outlaw. And speaking of that, the Peace Brothers would also do double duty as the Outlaw. As the Vigilantes.
This was like Sin Cara. This was before Sin Cara.
Yes. Only instead of being stars, they were jobbers. Yeah. But they all added quite a flavor to LA TV on a weekly basis. There was one that, was one of the regular losers on TV each week by the name of Mando Lopez. And Mando Lopez was anything but a loser. He was a guy who was trained, lucha libre style. But in the early 70s, I think he started wrestling in LA in 1971. And he was one of the jobbers that they would use who you could rely on to, get, beat by Gordman and Goliath, Gordon Nelson, Beauregard, you name it, he was usually the one on the losing end. But every now and then, Mando Guerrero, that was silly of me.
Lopez.
How dare I? Yeah, Mando Lopez would get an inspirational win.
Mando Guerrero just heard this podcast and ripped.
That's right.
Bang the door.
If he comes banging at our door, we're in trouble. If only I were eloquent, this would be a great podcast.
Was Mando Guerrero at the Wrestle? He was at the Wrestle Reunion, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Mando Lopez would every now and then be given these inspirational wins, and at one point in 1975 was given an actual bona fide push as the tag team partner of John Tolis. Mando Lopez passed away sometime last week. I still know nothing about his death other than he was around the age of 60. I learned this from Jesse Hernandez. I actually knew Mando Lopez because in addition to being, one of the regulars on Los Angeles TV wrestling, when I started attending the Lucha Libre shows at Hadco Plaza in the early 80s, Mando Lopez wrestled under a hood as Superstar. Now, to the best of my knowledge, this was before the Masked Superstar.
Oh, so Masked Superstar stole his gimmick.
Yeah, damn it. No, we always found it funny because we'd go to Hadco Plaza and we'd see this guy called the Superstar, and the first thing we thought of is Superstar Graham. Mando Lopez was by no means a bodybuilder. Did not have that look. But on the indie shows in Hadco Plaza, he was one of the guys who were usually in the upper echelon of the show. And when I started working out at Gil's Gym in the late 80s, for anybody who has not heard me talk about Gil's Gym, it was the most awesome wrestling gym I have ever been to. Gil Arellano was a wrestler from Tijuana who moved to Los Angeles sometime in the early 70s. He was an auto mechanic, had his own auto garage, and he just gutted the supply room, and instead of keeping auto supplies in it, he built a ring. Built a ring.
How was he as a mechanic?
Well, that was one of the things that I found very charming.
Always low on supplies.
That's right. Well, that was one of the things that was very charming about Gil's Gym. On any given day, I would go there, and there would be Gil just sitting, sitting on in a lawn chair, just amongst all his cars, just watching TV, sipping a soda, and I think maybe only about 10% of the time I went there was he actually working on a car.
Oh, great.
But no, it was one of the things I loved about going there because he was never alone. He'd usually be around a couple of local wrestlers, usually the older wrestlers like El Moro or Chivo Garcia, who was the father of Kayam and Enigma de Oro. And when the day would come to an end, Gil would take off his mechanic duds, change into his trunks, and teach wrestling classes. Oh. And, you always hear about the rip-off prices a lot of wrestling schools charge. Gil's classes were $5 a workout.
Wow.
And one of the people who were frequently at Gil's Gym in the late 80s was Mando Lopez, which was a big deal to me because I would see him each week on TV.
Did you give him the Kurt Brown reaction? Mando Lopez.
I know who you are. You know what? I don't remember what exactly the first day I met him, but I do know I went up to him and said, "Oh my God, I used to watch you on TV."
Yeah.
And I remember LA TV in such great detail back then. One of the things that I remember is I was such a jobber fan back then. Every week I kept hoping the jobbers would get a win. And the LaBelle promotion wasn't one of the brightest promotions in the world, but something they did that was smart was every now and then the jobbers would pull it off. Occasionally Bengali would get a win.
Yeah.
And I do remember the first time I ever saw Mando Guerrero go over in a match.
Mando Lopez.
I did it again, didn't I? What is with me? Oh, I should be ashamed of myself.
Come on, Kurt. It's Kurt Brown.
Oh, jeez. Okay, then I'm going to turning into Vandal Drummond now. Yeah, Kurt Brown is going home for the evening.
Uh-oh. They better not think you're doing a suicide note.
No, brother. No, Kurt Brown has left the building. Vandal Drummond is here. Let's see if I can do it right this time. Man, I can't even tribute somebody who's passed away correctly. Jeez. So the first time I saw Mando Lopez go over in a match, it was in the summer of '73, and he was teaming with Tony Rocco, who was one of the mid-carders. And they were wrestling Gordman and Goliath. And jobbers would usually be given a generous amount of spots in these matches, and so Mando Lopez was getting his share of spots, and I'm waiting for the moment he's going to land flat on his back and be staring at the lights above. Well, he and Goliath start fighting on the apron of the ring, on the outside of the ring. And they're trading blows, and the referee is counting them out. 1, 2, 3. They're just trading blows over and over again. Then when they get to the count of 9, Goliath rears back his fist, belts Mando Lopez really hard, sending him over the rope into the ring. So Goliath gets counted out. Now, I know people usually...
That's actually a great...
Isn't that a great finish?
Great finish, yes.
Now, a lot of people would call this a slip on a banana peel finish, but the reason it didn't come off like that is because when they won, Mando Lopez and Tony Rocco just went nuts, we beat them, we won. And Gordman and Goliath kept slapping their heads in frustration, oh my god, we messed up big time. Yeah. They didn't just act cocky we lost, no big deal, like they do all the time today. It got a really huge pop from the crowd, and it got a huge pop from the 11-year-old kid who was watching it on his television set in my house. The next time they gave Mando Lopez any kind of a push was in 1975, after a number of jobs on Channel 13, including one I'll never forget where he wrestled Man Mountain Mike, and all he did was come off the ropes, go to tackle Man Mountain Mike, and just collapse and then get squashed, by the 600-pound behemoth in, I think, 30 seconds. They gave him a push where he and John Tolos were chasing the tag team titles that were held by Gordman and Goliath. And as I recall, they came really close to getting them, didn't get them. Oh, then, about 2 months later, out of nowhere, he teamed with Mickey Doyle. And if anybody knows the history of Mickey Doyle in LA, it was a fascinating one. He started off in the early months of 1975 as an up-and-comer who was getting quite a push. He got a lot of mic time. And then, for absolutely no reason, suddenly he was the jobber extraordinaire. He never went over. And when I say never, I mean never, ever.
You kept track of this, huh?
Well, not only did I keep track of it, the Herald Examiner, a now defunct newspaper that was a pretty huge newspaper in LA at the time, would actually cover the wrestling matches in the sports section. They would do it tongue-in-cheek, like when Roddy Piper had his head shaved, they would say Dobie Gillis made his return to wrestling because he resembled the character Dobie Gillis on TV. Okay. Adrian Adonis, who wrestled as Keith Franks, they would just bill him as Beans and Frank. But they always would have a running Mickey Doyle joke, like they'd say, the vendors are now selling Mickey Doyle dolls. You wind them up and they get pinned. That's how famous he was as a jobber. But so here he was jobbing right, left, every way, and just one night, inexplicably, unfortunately, I don't think it was televised because I don't recall it, Mickey Doyle and Mando Lopez won the tag belts from Gordman and Goliath, and then dropped them a few weeks later. I can't remember who to. I think 9 days later they dropped them.
They didn't even lose them that same night? Wow.
No, the only thing,
They had a better record than Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That Rey Mysterio, man, jeez. You should learn something from Mickey Doyle and Mando Lopez.
Yes. So Mando Lopez. Okay, how many times have I said Lopez without erring and saying Guerrero? Thank God.
You're on a roll now.
I'm on a roll now. Vandal Drummond is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. I'm assuming maybe they were given the straps. Maybe Gordman and Goliath decided to leave really, like they said, hey, we're out of here.
Did they leave?
That's my assumption.
They must have gone to, like, Southwest.
I bet they did. Because I can't think of any other reason why they would have dropped it so quickly. Yeah. So like I said, I met Mando Lopez in the late 1980s at Gil's. And that's when I really realized, actually, that he, just wasn't... I knew he was a good worker, but it was really fun having him give you pointers in the ring. He would really pay attention to details on, things a lot of people overlook, from just simple bumps to lockups, ways of giving, elbow smashes and stuff that's, going to protect your opponent.
Was he fluent in English or Spanish?
Yeah, his English was broken, but not terribly. I mean, I could understand everything he said, but what was more fun than having him show you anything in the ring was sitting next to him during a match, especially a lucha-style match. Because there were a number of guys in the early 90s who were just great flyers, great technical workers, but he would point out everything that they were missing. He's saying, look at them not selling to the crowd.
Yeah.
Look, they just got their arm worked on, and they just shook it off like it's nothing. I mean, he just paid attention to the passion of a wrestling match, what you're supposed to do to sell it to the crowd. And on top of that, Lopez was just a really friendly guy. And right before Gil's closed in 2006, I was going there on a semi-regular basis after, not being around for a few years.
Yeah.
And I noticed there was no Mando Lopez there hanging around. I asked Gil, is he still around? And he says, well, he doesn't wrestle anymore, and he only shows up here now and then because he's been in bad health. So I don't know what the cause of his passing was, but, it sounds like he had been in bad health for several years. But the Mando Lopez story, the one I want to close it out with, is there's a story Mando Lopez loved to tell, and that was a time when he wrestled
Mando Guerrero.
I'll have to find out if they ever wrestle each other.
Yeah.
The joke's on me.
Lopez Guerrero, that's kind of...
Yeah,
that's a pretty common Mexican last name.
That's true. I'm sure I've dropped the ball on other wrestlers in that same vein. I know I have. But Mando Lopez used to talk about the time when he was in Texas and he was just doing a shot here and there on various cards there. And one night he was hired to do a job on TV. And who the booker was, I don't know who the booker was, but the booker came up and told him, I'm putting you in against Terry Funk tonight. And he was pretty much talking down to Mando and just saying, now you understand Terry Funk is the NWA champion. I don't want you to do anything fancy in there. I don't want you to do any moves. You just get squashed. You understand me? And he said, yes, no problem. So he says Terry Funk, comes into the dressing room, and when he's told he's working with Mando Lopez, he comes up and says, okay, kid, what do you want to do? And he says, oh, nothing. I'm just going to lay down. And he says Funk just stares at him and says, what's with the attitude? Are you lazy, or did somebody tell you you're not getting paid tonight? Why don't you want to do anything? And he said he's getting nervous because Terry Funk's staring at him.
Terry Funk's an imposing guy back then.
And so his response is, oh no, the promoter just told me lay down. And he says, listen, you're a wrestler. You get in the ring tonight, I expect you to wrestle. You understand? And he says, okay, anything you say. So they get in the ring, and he says, Funk tells him to go for a single leg takedown. So he goes for a single leg takedown, and he says he's barely even grabbed the leg, and Funk just throws himself to the mat and starts screaming in pain and just selling the leg You know, like selling more than he would have normally for Lopez, but he wanted to make a point to the booker.
Yeah.
And said he made Mando Lopez look like $1 million, and then, you know, after Lopez did the job to him, Lopez goes back to the dressing room, and the booker just comes in red in the face and just starts screaming at him, says, like, you know, you lousy this and that, and threw in a few ethnic slurs. I told you don't touch him. And he just sat there and took the yelling at, and then he said Terry Funk just walked in between them and looked at the booker and said, I told him to do those things. Says you leave the kid alone. You understand? I told him to do those things. Oh, and by the way, like, never tell anybody how to wrestle a match with me. And so Mando Lopez obviously loved Terry Funk just for that.
Yeah.
But then he loved him even more when Funk walked up to him later in the evening with his pay and handed it to Lopez and said, I'm sorry you had to put up with that.
Wow.
And Lopez would always conclude the story looking up and going, Terry Funk, beautiful person.
There's a lot of people that think of Terry Funk that way, though. Huh.
Yes.
He seems to be like the one guy that everybody speaks highly of.
He does. Terry Funk, when you just think back, I mean, he's always on my top 5 list, not for just quality matches, but he just seems like somebody who loves the business. And
you know the other thing, Terry Funk, he shakes hands.
So anyway, I wanted to just give that tribute to Mando Lopez, who I had not seen him in years, but...
Yeah. How long did he wrestle? Did he wrestle still into the 90s? Or?
No, I think by that time he had wound it up. In fact, I can tell you the last time I saw him wrestle was on a show in Santa Ana in 1990.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he wrestled after that. I don't know if it was because of his health or just...
Yeah, I mean...
You just wanted to wind it up. Yeah. But it's, you know, Gills has been gone for 5 years, and it's sad. I get a little wistful thinking, you know, Gil's still alive, but El Moro, Chivo Garcia have both passed away, and now Mando Lopez. I almost said it again. People. people.
You need a break.
No, yeah, well, if anybody who wants to email tell me I was a total idiot tonight, feel free to. No, but it's I'm just sad to think Mando Lopez won't be seeing him at Gills anymore either, even if it opened again. But just want to give a salute to one of SoCal's boys who was quite a part of my, not just being a wrestling fan when I was a little kid, but somebody I grew to admire as just a local opening boy when I was, breaking into the lucha style. So I just want to give Mando Lopez a salute and say, thank you. We'll be back in a minute. We have returned, and I want to apologize for that last segment, the way I kept butchering the most simple name in the world. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Mando Lopez is that's like the most Mexican name you could have, and it's like you got it wrong like 3 times.
Oh, man.
But don't worry, it was Mando Guerrero. I mean, you weren't off by different person.
Well, my intentions were good, but I was quite the asshole in that segment.
I think this next segment you'll make up for it, because
I think so. And before we jump into this segment, I just want to say I never said what I would do if I was Booker with CMLL. Fredo said he would dance, but what I would do is I would put a belt on Que Monito, and I would have a 5-foot-tall Que Monito, I'd have a 5'7" Que Monito, a 6-foot-tall Que Monito, and a 6'5" tall Que Monito.
But see, the thing is, the trick to the Que Monitos, they all can't be able to walk properly.
Yes.
They have to be like
they have to be bull-legged. Totally.
That'd be awesome.
I want to be Booker now.
And then you just have like a parrot suddenly show up. You should have like I gotta look for that video of that 7-foot ape.
What?
Monterey. In Monterey, like in 2003, 2003, there was like this giant ape wrestling. Like it was like an ape from the Planet of the Apes type.
I never heard of this.
Like a 6'5" ape or something.
Oh, I want to see this.
I have to look for it. I can't remember his name. I think I'll ask Rob what the name was.
I love it.
But that guy was hilarious. Like he was just like this really tall ape. It's like, what is this? An ape? That was when they were doing the Shrek and the Donkey. They were like bringing in all these other guys. I found a Batman versus Robin, Batman and Robin.
No way!
Yeah.
No way! You got it on tape?
Yeah, from Monterey, Batman and Robin.
I want to see
it's
that.
It's short though, but
I don't care. I want to see
Batman and Robin. Well, this segment we're gonna, since you're a Hall of Fame voter for the Observer Hall of Fame, thought we would get your thoughts on some of the candidates or nominees or whatever you call them.
Now, something I've done for the first time.
You've been voting for how long? For like the past 50 years?
Yeah, I've been voting.
You and Dave are ancient.
Yes, I have been voting even before the Hall of Fame was invented.
You were sending these to Dave before he even thought about doing this.
I was truly delusional.
Yeah.
Well,
you were actually the person that talked them into doing the one Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, weren't you?
Was I?
I don't know.
No, I don't think I was. I think I had nothing to do with that. No, I was pretty nuts, but I wasn't nuts to propose something like that. Since my reputation on the Slam and Stand podcast has always been somebody who, neglects to watch wrestling. For the first time, I've neglected to look at the ballot this year. I am voting. The truth is, I've just had a very busy few weeks, but I do have my ballot. And I guess the best way to comment on this at this point in time is just folks who have been on the ballot each year who I don't understand how they haven't gotten in.
Well, the Lucha section is a little more...
The first one...
I mean, there's some guys who probably won't make it, because, like, Paraguayo Jr.
There's reason... I mean, I can understand argument why he wouldn't make it, because, I mean...
He's still in his career. Like, he's only, 32 years old.
Yeah. I mean, he's early in his career, plus it's crashed and burned in a bad way, unfortunately, because I really like him.
So did he fake cancer? Is that basically what we're figuring out?
That's my belief. It sounds so fishy.
So Robbie Hari wants to know what's worse, faking cancer or faking death? Faking suicide. We should do a top... next Slam and Stand? Top 10 worst things ever 2011. Just 2011.
Yeah, just 2011. That's true. I think suicide only because of Hardy, faking, I'm going to commit suicide. Yeah, she had law. People called the police, and but faking cancer, I think, is really, really low.
Plus, we don't really know exactly if it's...
Well, the first thing, we don't know. But, the first thing I thought of was he... saying he's undergoing chemotherapy, but he's going to be wrestling.
Yeah, that's when you kind of figured it was.
Yeah, when I had cancer, I was not even supposed to go to the gym. He said there's too many germs there. Can you imagine wrestling on a mat while you're having chemotherapy?
Pearls del Mal mat.
Oh, God.
There's dirt, dust all over the place.
Yeah, because when you are undergoing chemotherapy...
you get sick very easily.
Yeah, your immune system is shot. When I had chemotherapy... my immune system was low. I have a tendency to get canker sores sometimes, so when my immune system was low, I had like a mouthful of them and it hurt like crazy. I mean, I got pneumonia from...
Yeah, because I remember you told me that.
There was a fire like 5 miles away from our house, and just that small amount of smoke gave me pneumonia.
Yeah.
And, in fact, I commented on it. I wrote an email to Dave Meltzer saying that's why it sounded fishy to me. Perro claiming he was going to wrestle while undergoing chemo. And Meltzer printed what I wrote in the newsletter, and he mentioned something about a UFC...
Did you write the whole email?
I think he did, actually, yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But then he mentioned something that I already forget the guy's name, but there was an MMA fighter who fought while undergoing chemotherapy, and
that's when you kind of thought maybe... Well,
no, I thought that was fishy, too, so I started Googling it. But in the fighter's case, he was undergoing a chemotherapy where you're taking it orally.
Oh, okay.
So he was probably in very early stages. I think it was leukemia, if I remember right. Although I do think any doctor who would pass somebody who was undergoing chemotherapy to fight... Actually, I should slightly correct that. He had just finished chemotherapy a few weeks before.
But still, it takes a couple of weeks or...
Oh, yeah. I was still susceptible. I still had that stuff in my system, but, like my case, I had the IV stuck to me. I was getting pumped full of this stuff. Where if you're taking orally, it's not as severe. Although I still question the doctor's wisdom of, passing somebody to fight.
So is this enough not to vote for Paraguayo Jr.?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
just because you're like, man, that sucks.
Yeah, that's pretty. Although I'm sure a lot of people in the Hall of Fame have done questionable stuff. This is wrestling.
You do have one murderer, a couple. I mean,
yes,
one known murderer.
Yeah, this is true.
Is he the only murderer in the Hall of Fame?
That I can think of offhand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we know that he actually did.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But no, more because Paraguayo Jr.'s career.
Yeah, I mean,
it took off, but it crashed and burned in a bad way.
His injury, in 2008, that kind of took it down.
Yeah, I have a feeling from this point on his career isn't going to thrive, but it remains to be seen. But it doesn't seem like it will thrive.
And then there's Dr. Wagner Jr.,
who I think should be in. Dr. Wagner Sr. should be in.
Yeah. Who's the more valid candidate right now?
In my opinion, Dr. Sr. I mean, you're talking about... I don't know.
Without him, there wouldn't be Dr. Wagner.
There would be. No, I mean, you're talking about somebody who... I mean, you're talking about a box office draw. You're talking about somebody who had a long track record.
Yeah.
You're talking about... I mean, he's a bona fide legend. I mean, there's no question. The other one that... while I wouldn't say it's to the point of being a shoo-in the way Dr. Wagner Sr. is Villano 3, I think, should be in.
Yeah, I know, seriously.
I mean, that guy...
But I think we've said that for the last 6-7 years.
Yes, we have. I don't know why people don't give him the nod. I mean, it's fascinating that here are 5 brothers, and specifically brother number 3
is the best one.
Yeah.
Memorable one.
Yeah, memorable one. I mean, I think about 2 very... cornerstone matches in Lucha Libre. There was the famous Villanos versus Brazos mask versus mask match in, was it 1988?
Somewhere around that time.
I mean, that was a very famous match. I mean, that was box office gold. And then when he dropped the mask to Atlantis.
Yeah, that turned the corner to the next generation of Lucha fans.
Yes, and... Oh, I remember seeing him in Tijuana, and
then you think about all the great feuds and matchups he had, all the titles he held. I mean, the titles is one thing, it's a gimmick, but the feuds, I mean, you just mentioned 2, and then there's still the Benoit feud.
Yes,
there's the Rambo feud, which is probably the most underrated feud in all of Lucha Libre, just because nobody ever gave. Rambo.
In fact, I know very little about it.
I mean. Rambo as a worker, I mean, a guy who probably never got enough credit as what he could do in the ring. I mean, here's a guy who actually trained some of the Torimon guys.
Yes.
He was one of the guys who helped train those guys. Then you have his feud with Fishman, his feud with Paraguayo, Sangre Chicana. He feuded with all the lighter weights in Mexico during all those years as a light heavyweight also. So he's a guy who actually... He feuded against different styles of wrestlers too, for some reason.
This is true.
He was really good at feuding with. You could put him with anybody. He could have a great feud with.
This is true. Oh, I remember a number years ago when Billy Anderson was still wrestling regularly in Tijuana. As one of the mercenaries, I asked him, of all the Mexican guys, who are your favorites to work with, and he said the Villanos.
Plus, the Villanos were great guys too.
Yes,
Villano 3, great guy.
Yes, and I mean. So over with the crowd. I mean, I don't know who to compare his popularity with in America, but I mean, the crowd a natural baby face.
But he was always like in between heel and baby face.
The night I saw him in Tijuana, I surprisingly, I forget who he was in a match with, but it was a 6-man tag, and they were shooting for a mask versus mask angle. I believe the guy he was wrestling was one of the local TJ boys. But at the end of the match, his mask was carved up to where you could see 3/4 of his face.
God, his forehead.
His forehead and his chin. Yeah. He had gig marks on his chin.
I mean, that alone should put you in the Hall of Fame, because you actually did that stuff. I mean, supposedly, I think one of the criteria is that you have to have given back to the business. I mean, this guy gave his face to the
business. Yes.
He carved his face.
So well put.
I mean...
And the crowd, I mean... the crowd was going nuts when this happened. I mean, the people were popping big. I mean, like, they did not like seeing him getting butchered like that.
And another thing, he's a great dancer. Let's not forget that one segment where he's dancing with the Boricuas, the Pure and all them.
So if you do book, your dance partner will be Villano Tercero.
Another guy, Sin Cara. Where do you stand with Sin Cara? Considering you're somebody who might have seen him like in his prime,
I actually,
in his early days.
Believe it or not, the fourth wrestling show I ever attended live, I saw him team with Victor Rivera at the Olympic in 1977.
Wow.
Against the Hangman and Roddy Piper.
So you're basically the only person voting who should decide on Sin Cara.
Yeah. And because I'm me, because I am Vandal Drummond, I should be able to vote on. I have last word on everything.
Everybody else saw Sin Cara. Well, I think Dave might have seen Sin Cara also earlier.
He was one of those guys, even when he wasn't that strong a technical worker, I thought he had a charisma about him.
His charisma was what carried him.
Yeah, believe it or not, next to the Eddie Guerrero and Art Barr versus Octagon and Santo match at the AAA pay-per-view years ago. I remember, was it the match with Conan and Perro Aguayo?
Yeah, where the Dinamita
ran out.
Yeah,
that got such a huge pop. And deservedly so. There was such fire in Sin Cara's face.
He just had charisma. Like, that's the one thing you could say that he had. He actually had a look that you were like, oh shit, here comes Sin Cara.
Yes.
But I mean, once he got old, it was like, oh god.
It was. The one thing I remember him that I really admired about him was the anniversary show when he dropped his mask to Rio de Jalisco Jr.
Yeah.
If somebody told me that somebody could make Rio de Jalisco Jr. shine.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, that was a good match.
Was Rio really that bad even when he was younger?
I thought he sucked.
Yeah.
I thought he sucked big time.
Because he was very, his moveset was very similar to what he does now, basically.
Well, the old
lighter,
term...
skinnier, but I mean, it still wasn't something like... I just think, when he was around, there were so many other guys who were so much better.
There were. Well, also, whenever you use that, the age-old term, he's as good as the guy he's working with.
Yeah.
He would look good if he was with somebody really well, but most of the times I saw him, it was in six-man tags, so...
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like you're going to get, a full...
Right. I love seeing him work with Jerry Estrada, because I love the way Jerry Estrada would sell for his moves.
Yeah.
Like when he did the little when he did the... arm drag lockup and would do the little dance. Uh-huh. Jerry Estrada would look down at his feet and try to keep up with him.
Yeah, I know. Seriously,
I loved that. Yeah. So when
that's my other dance partner, Jerry Estrada.
Yeah, that's right.
He's probably doing poor health right now. So.
Yeah, that's really sad.
I should have mentioned that.
God,
he probably can't dance anymore. So
yeah, that's true.
So, Cian, would you vote for him?
Yeah. Yes, I would.
Okay, who else? Karloff Lagarde. You're a bit of a historian, but...
Bit of a historian,
He's to me, he seems like somebody that Steve or somebody who's been around would have to do a little research and, then decide if he was worth it.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see...
But, I mean, you read about him and it's, just an amazing guy. I mean, just a great worker.
He was.
And all the feuds, you see all this... When you start seeing his matches... He wrestled Blue Demon. He wrestled Santo. He wrestled Gory Guerrero. He wrestled all these guys. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, in fact...
Solitario.
In fact, I don't know what the criteria was when... I mean, it was interesting. It's interesting if you look at, Mexico's history of who held what championship.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what criteria was held for giving somebody a really lengthy championship run. If it was drawing power, if it was who was the booker. But I was looking at the NWA welterweight history recently, and when it got to Karloff Lagarde, he had an extraordinarily long run, one of the lengthiest. Wow. And that was in the 50s. I don't know if that was... his drawing power.
Well, in Mexico, a lot of the CMLL, I guess that's technically part of CMLL back then. They hold belts for a long time. Certain guys.
Yeah, and I think that was effective.
Yeah.
Well, in fact,
Ultimo Guerrero held it for 15 years.
What?
Really? No, he only held it for
I don't think he's been around for 15 years.
2.5 years.
But it's interesting when I was just looking at the welterweight history, I was noticing, well, one, back then they gave guys generally lengthier reigns, but you'd see like Santo or Blue Demon holding it for a few years, and then boom, you get to Carlos Lagarde, and he had it for, I can't remember, like I want to say 4 or 5.
Wow.
I'll have to look at it again. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but I remember being just shocked at what a lengthy run they gave him.
I think it was because I started writing something about it. So.
And that's one of those historical things where you can't judge a guy by watching tapes of him, because I bet you tons of stuff exists, but we're never going to see them.
Yeah,
they're in the vaults of the TV studios. I think
it's pretty obvious when you see a black and white video, like in a 1990 show. They'll have a black. Remember, they used to show the black and white.
Yes, they'd have a clip each week,
and you're like, "There's something. They have stuff in some sort of."
Yes,
I mean, unless they got rid of it.
From what I understand, in the Galvision Studios is
because I know they have a lot of boxing.
Yeah, well, from what I understand is that they have all their wrestling. They have everything, but nothing leaves the Galvision studio.
I think we need to go there and like invade it.
There we go. Let's get in our commando gear. We'll storm that place.
Steal all that stuff.
Oh, what I would give to be able to get my hands on those.
Huracan Ramirez is another guy.
Just on his celebrity status alone, I think he'd be in.
They seem like so obvious, like these guys. But then you hear like these like the guys who don't know anything about them, and then like they feel a need to vote for Lucha. It's like, you guys never saw Huracan Ramirez and don't really know the full effect of him in the culture. I mean,
yeah,
because I think that's what a lot of people miss.
And while he was no El Santo, he did have some clothes. He had some movie celebrity to him, and I cannot think of any wrestler who has been imitated. I mean, there's been more.
I mean, how many Huracan Ramirez's have we met in the industry?
Dozens. I know there
was we've at least seen 2 different guys in the last like 10 years, just here locally.
Yeah, Huracan Ramirez's, they breed like rabbits. Yeah. They're everywhere. So
you know why? Because I guess they don't own the guy who owns the rights. They never settled it or something, and I guess there's like a weird
interesting.
I don't know.
I think I would lay odds he's the most duplicated wrestler in history.
Yeah.
The only thing I would take points for is, when you saw him without his mask, that hairpiece, that hairpiece, I swear.
The other thing I think might go against him is that there were other guys who were like bigger stars than him. Because I think when you look at the list of all the all-time greats in Mexico, I think because of his era, there's basically Santo.
Yes.
There's Blue Demon. Mil Mascaras is kind of in that era. Well,
yes.
Mil Mascaras is during that era. And then you have Cavernario Galindo.
Yes.
I think Cavernario Galindo, a lot of people missed the whole point with him because they start thinking, oh, well, he just was the brawler and bloody people.
Oh, they miss it.
But I think you have to talk to people who grew up around like generations of lucha fans, where they can tell you like these weird mythic stories about Cavernario Galindo.
It's so true. It's very true.
And that's when you get the effect of Cavernario Galindo, and you can't compare him to like current wrestlers. You can't say like, oh well, Dr. Wagner Jr. is kind of the same way because he's a heel or something. It's not the same thing.
You're talking Cavernario Galindo. You're talking about somebody who, along with Gory Guerrero, made bloodbaths popular. Yeah. Made them legend.
Yeah.
In fact, before I got back into Lucha Libre in the mid '80s, a friend of Elena's, a guy who was in his 30s, talked about when he went to college in Mexico. He said he was casually interested in wrestling, didn't follow it, but he said his college buddies found out that El Santo and Cavernario Galindo were going to wrestle each other. I guess it was the first time they had wrestled each other in years, and they actually took a flight, went to the airport, hopped on a plane to go see them wrestle, just to see Santo and Cavernario.
Wow. Was this something like years later or something like?
Yeah, it was the early '70s.
Oh, okay.
So
they must have already been through that whole thing. But
yeah, because Santo and Cavernario had first they were tag team partners when Santo was a heel, and then their feud was legendary, and Galindo was in so many of Santo's movies, either as his opponent or as one of the thugs or zombies, or
because him and Frankenstein were the guys that.
Yes, Nathaniel Leon Frankenstein.
Should he be a Hall of Famer?
Oh, if it was my choice alone, I'd...
Wolf Ravinsky in the Hall of Fame? I think he is.
If he isn't, he should be.
I think he is. I can't remember.
I have to look at the list.
Because he's actually somebody who should actually be in.
He was Lucha Libre's ultimate renaissance man.
He was like the classiest guy you could ever like. Just that alone was like just an amazing guy.
And I know Dan Farron's probably rolling his eyes, but a place you can see both Wolf Ruvinsky and Cavernario Galindo is in the movie La Ultima Lucha from the 50s.
It's like, oh god, I gotta hear this.
I bring it out 100 times, but in case nobody's heard me rave about what a great movie it is, it's the best wrestling movie I've ever seen, and the wrestling scenes in it are second to none ever. Rito Romero is in it too.
You know who else is? Dr. Morales is in the ballot too.
And why?
And I think that's one of the, like, I explained it on the Lucha blog that I think a lot of that is going to be an issue because people kind of don't understand the impact he has on Lucha Libre, because the language barrier. But I think a lot of people will point him out as a guy who was like Gorilla Monsoon or something like that.
Oh, that's a terrible way.
Dr. Morales is more like Chick Hearn,
yes,
Vince Scully, a guy like that. A Lance Russell in Memphis, a guy who actually sold product and fans grew up with him basically as the announcer.
Exactly. I remember when I started watching Lucha on Galavision.
He was on there.
He was on there. It was 1989, and
he was on there before that. He was on there in 1980 still.
Yeah, and well, me, I speak no Spanish, but I was making trips to Tijuana. I would usually go with Physico, Steve Gerber, sometimes Dan Farron, and Pat Hood, who people know was Larry Rivera from XPW. He's been a wrestling fan since he was a kid, little kid going to the Olympic. But he, by that point, had been watching Lucha Libre on Galavision for several years, because even before it was on, not the public stations, but, standard TV, he had a satellite or a cable where he's able to get Lucha Libre.
Just to splice it into something.
And exactly. And remember? I'll never forget. In fact, I think we were driving to San Bernardino Arena for the Win tapings. I remember him telling me and Fizzy, just, God, I wish you guys could speak Spanish, because there's nothing like listening to Alfonso Morales narrate a match, and would bring frequent references to historical figures in lucha history in a way that even somebody who's watching the show for the first time can pick up on.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the English-speaking crowd isn't going to get it.
Yes.
They just assume, oh, he's just like these other guys. Because I think the other guy who kind of the announcers, Arturo Rivera is the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think where they separate each other, whereas Rivera will do all the shtick stuff, and sometimes he'll stick to that stuff. Morales is basically, he's just that. And then how Lance Russell, people would be how he would react to heels.
Yes,
that's exactly how Morales would react to heels.
Really?
I remember when he guys would come in and do their interviews, he'd go away because he was so upset at them.
Oh, that's great.
So I mean, I always thought he was another.
He should be, and there's no reason he shouldn't be.
Gran Amada is also another nominee, and I think he's a guy who I think people kind of just group him into the Japan list, and they don't realize. I was listening to this podcast on the Figure 4 show, and they were talking about how, well, Gran Amada, I mean, you can't put him in because he didn't come in. There was Tiger Mask before him, and then Ultimo Dragon after, and I'm like, well, that's incorrect, because Tiger Mask and Gran Amada came in at about the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Gran Amada was easier to work with and had far better matches in Mexico.
Yes.
And then Ultimo Dragon really didn't do as much as Gran Amada did in Mexico. I mean, I think...
That's a good point. I mean, I think a lot of people are unaware of just Gran Hamada's influence.
I mean...
in Mexico.
Yeah, the most enjoyable guy to watch.
Yeah.
From the Japanese guys.
I actually saw him live on a number of shows, and when I went with Meltzer to Japan.
Oh, Japan.
He was on the
I think that's
Japan
the thing.
tour.
People remember Hamada from that 1990-91 era, and they don't remember him from because they didn't watch it.
We were blown away what amazing shape that guy was in at his age.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was in the shape of a 20-year-old.
Yeah, and he was already in late 30s, early 40s.
Probably, well into his 40s.
Yeah, I mean, he's in his 60s right now.
Yeah, no, he was no spring chicken. I mean, And while Perro Aguayo wasn't as strong a worker, the other thing I was thinking on that tour is that guy worked his butt off.
Perro Aguayo was really good, like up until like as he got older. I mean, because he was really good up until '86.
Yeah,
and then he started slowing down a little bit.
He slowed down, but when he needed,
he was doing the brawling.
It's true, but when he needed to turn it on, like when he had his feud with Conan, he really turned it on. I mean, he took bumps that. Usually the younger... When I saw him taking bumps for much younger guys, I thought, the younger guys should be taking the bumps for him. But he was taking their bumps.
The thing is, like, he didn't have to take anything because the fans are so into it. He could
they love him.
He could have a shitty match, and plus, like, the Dinamitas could have shitty matches, and people would still go.
That's true.
Mil Mascaras can have a shitty match, and still go.
And the way Aguayo bled, I mean, he would bleed to his boots. I mean, you had sympathy. I mean,
I think he just bled as soon as he.
I think he's like Dusty Rhodes. I think he had a blading fetish almost, where I think he loved to bleed. There
should be a top 10 forehead list, like somebody.
That's a great idea.
Top 10 worst foreheads: Abdullah the Butcher,
number one,
and Villano III.
Villano III should get a special award for carving a roadmap all throughout his face.
That guy just disgusting. How did he get married?
I guess there's people who have a fetish for everything. I guess some women adore a carved up face.
Big wrestling fan, and then once she fell in love with his personality, she was like, okay.
Well, it's so funny because, again, going back to Cavernario Galindo, I always thought when I looked how it wasn't that his face was ugly, but he had scarring. I guess scarring was
an ugly guy already.
Yeah, but in his prime, he had this magnificent physique.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, he reminds me of something a cartoonist drew, but I couldn't put my face on it. And then I thought of Robert Crumb's illustration of a character he called the Devil Girl, who just had this, big but knockout body, but this demonic face. And I just sat there thinking, oh my God, I would love to write Robert Crumb and send him a picture of Cavernario Galindo. Have him have a comic where he marries Devil Girl. Everybody who's listening to this, do a Google search for images of Devil Girl by Robert Crumb, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. She had that classic physique that Robert Crumb dreams of, the girl with the big round butt and the big thick legs, but this face that just was evil. Yeah. And I thought they would make such a great item.
What else is on the ballot? I can't remember.
In fact,
I think that's all there.
Maybe, on the next show.
I think the Slam and Stand show, we'll talk about all the.
Yeah, we'll talk about the other ones.
Yeah, because I think there's so many guys on the ballot that if you start talking about everybody, we're not going to finish.
Yes.
So I think we should call it a show.
Well, I hope you folks enjoyed it.
Kurt's got to go take a nap.
I got to go take a long nap because I have to get ready for work tomorrow. So you people have fun out there, and thank you for listening. We will see you next time.